Welcome to Inspiring Women in Audit, the only podcast celebrating the achievements and journeys of women in the internal audit industry. In each episode, we spotlight the extraordinary stories, insights, and expertise of these dynamic professionals. Our aim is to amplify their voices, inspiring a new generation of women auditors to share their knowledge, experiences, and unique perspectives. Remember to check our show notes for links to our social media channels and to subscribe to the Inspiring Women in Audit newsletter. This podcast is brought to you by I4 Global Results Limited, the audit communication experts, dedicated to transforming your audit reporting and your audit results through communication, optimization, and collaboration. Now, let's dive into this episode of Inspiring Women in Audit.
I'm excited today to have Maria Mora as my guest on Inspiring Women in Audit podcast. Maria is a partner in Internal Audit at Crowe LLP in New York. She has more than 2 decades in internal audit risk and assurance, helping organizations strengthen their audit functions and deliver real value. She's known for her leadership, her clarity of thought, and her deep belief in the power of culture and communication to transform how teams work. Maria was recently recognized as one of the Association of Latino Professionals for America's Latinas to Watch, a reflection of both her professional impact and her commitment to empowering women and Latina professionals in the field. She brings authenticity, empathy, and a quiet strength to the room. I can't wait for you to hear her story and her perspective on leadership culture and what really drives audit excellence. So Maria, welcome to the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast.
Thank you, Tracy. Very excited to be here and really looking forward to this conversation.
I'm excited too, and I just wanted to share with our listeners that we met at the audit board lunch at the kind of in parallel to the GRC conference in New York.
Yeah, it was a great lunch. It was also a lunch just for women, right? So focused on a lot of the women in the industry, and it was crazy to see like how many great people were there, how many stories and how many things we heard. And really that's what inspired me also to continue this conversation with you. So very excited.
Yeah, it was a lovely conversation, a lovely lunch, and it was all about leadership and authenticity and women in our industry. And I think we should just keep carrying on that conversation, as you said. So let me start by asking you kind of your audit origin story. What pulled you first into the world of internal audit? Because we all have this kind of our own unique stories.
I know it's kind of interesting when I think about this origin story, right? I really was in accounting and didn't want to do audit or tax, which I think a lot of people might find themselves in that situation. Had a conversation with Crowe and a lot of the people that work in our internal audit group. And I thought, this sounds good, right? You're able to understand processes, really work with people to see how things are working and help them before they actually get to either an audit or an examination. And that's kind of how I started here, and then I clearly have loved it and stayed here ever since. So it's really a wonderful experience so far.
And was there that like one moment where you thought, this is where I want to be, audit is where I want to be?
It's interesting because I think, especially at the beginning, it's hard to see yourself as doing that for a long time. I mean, audit can be challenging when you're starting, right? It's hard to see the big picture, and you feel like maybe you're stuck in a little space. And I think that really was what started to make me think, okay, maybe I do need to understand fully what it is. And I think that the feeling of not knowing, that was kind of I was struggling to get to why am I doing this, drove me to understand why I was doing it. And then that's really what made me stay. And it really has been a lot about the changes and the things that are different in the profession. I feel like maybe if I was doing external audit or like true financial statement audits, it would be a lot more focused all the time in one kind of process or objective. And I think in internal audit, I've had a chance to do a lot of different things, right? So understand how things work at an institution, also understand, okay, well, how is internal audit really helping the risk management function, even helping some second line internal risk management functions as an internal auditor. So I feel like it really has never been like one moment when I'm like, this is it for me. It really has been more of a journey, and the little pieces that kind of have come together to really take me to to now that I clearly I love it, and I never realized that, one day it's year one and then 1 year is year 15. So
Right? It happens in a split second and you're not quite sure how you
it
got
really
there,
is.
but it's been a good experience along the way.
I just think about the profession today and how we're all going to be pushed for lots of different things. And
Yeah.
I think it really continues to be an exciting place to be in the future too.
I think it's a super exciting time. I personally have felt like internal audit has been slow to innovate. So I've been doing this, I started teaching, training, coaching, consulting internal audit in 2005 and started my own business in around 2013. And I felt like it's just been slow. It's just been pushing them, pushing
Hmm.
them, not having them come along for the journey to innovate and change the mindset and all those things. And now with the onset of AI, we don't have a choice anymore. So I think
Yeah.
it started with the whole COVID years of we've got to do something. We can't keep doing things the way we're doing. We can't send our teams out to sites, so we have to change. We have to find new ways of doing things. And now, boom. It's like
I know.
it's almost like being the frog, in the boiling water. And all through COVID, it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And now we're just, we have to leap out to
It
survive.
really is. And I think it's not only those in the profession that are seeing that internal audit is a great place for AI to not only take place, but like it really seems like a perfect setup of like slightly inefficient processes with people don't really want you to be there all the time, even though it's really helpful. So it's like a perfect storm of things that are really creating the perfect place for AI to not only people that are currently working in internal audit, but really people that are innovating, like startups, to start thinking about, okay, how can we like disrupt the space, which it really has been quite a bit. And I think that is also in a lot of internal audit departments' minds. And I think probably in like CEOs and budgets. And I think that's gonna come along, and it's gonna be an interesting time coming.
Right? Absolutely. And I was thinking too, even for my team, like the next person I hire for my team has to know how to use AI,
Hmm.
whereas that never would have been a criteria
I
before.
know. It's crazy.
So
It's been so fast, right? Like I think like we started talking about it not that long ago it feels. I mean, it's been a bit, but like not that long it feels, and now it's a critical basic skill that everyone needs to have.
it's a must have. And I was doing presenting audit results training this week, and I now have a section on AI in my training, which I never had before.
Yeah.
Right? So how to use AI to deliver audit results. So kind of fun. All right, let's come back to you. In the lead up to the recording of this podcast, you told me you grew up surrounded by strong women. You have a great grandmother who made history in Venezuela, a grandmother who broke barriers in engineering. So I would first of all like you to tell us a little bit about these strong women in your family, and then how has that shaped the leader that you've become?
I know it's always crazy to me to think about that and their stories. So, um, my great grandma, and really living in Venezuela, I never thought about this as anything crazy, right? Because they were around me. I feel like this was just the way it was. I grew up in a family of all women, pretty much, except my dad. So I feel like it was all about like what women do and how they act. So my great grandma was the first woman to be elected for councilman, a political like position in Venezuela. Um, she was a
Incredible.
councilwoman in her town, and she also ran the accounting for the candle factory before electricity became available for the full town. So it was quite a critical role that she was running. Well, also obviously having kids, she had 5 children and and a working husband. So like definitely a very interesting thing to live through in the early 1900s. So um, she clearly was absolutely wonderful. And then her daughter, which is my grandma, is an engineer. She graduated from engineering, was one of the first women in a very prestigious university in South America to graduate from engineering, and then became a professor and also studied at the University of Michigan. A master's in programming, actually, which is kind of interesting for that time as well. So
Absolutely.
also doing that while working. She actually worked in the construction field. So she was doing supervision of actual construction projects and while being a single mom. So quite an interesting time. So definitely women that have always inspired me and continue to inspire me today.
And so what I see is like strong leadership, dedication, commitment, internal motivation from these women. So does that get passed through genetics or how has that impacted you?
I'm going to say maybe. No, I mean, obviously day to day, like I spent a lot of my childhood like with my mom and my grandma, like very closely. We lived very close
Mhm.
together. I actually remember like my grandma for a while was in the board of a financial institution as well. And I would go and sit with her in her office and I was a kid, obviously. It was like, I remember just coloring in the floors. So uh, just seeing and seeing how just being strong was normal. Like it was just like what it was, right? Like being able to like do things and be out there and also not doing one thing, but doing all the things that you could possibly do. My mom
Mhm.
always said I was born with my hand up, like volunteering for all things. And I feel like it might have come from there. So
I like that. Born with your hand up.
yeah. I know in
Um,
Spanish it sounds better, right? So like, but
what is it in Spanish?
I, así con la mano levantada, it's just like hand up
Oh, it
all
does
the
sound
time to
better.
say yes.
But I think that's a great way to kind of describe yourself, just because of the things that you have accomplished. So you come from a long line of strong women, dedicated women, and you were recognized as one of the Latinas to watch, which is a huge honor. And can you tell us first a little bit about the organization?
Yeah, of course. So, Alpha is really a not-for-profit whose role is really to empower Latino professionals working in corporate America to be able to take on leadership opportunities and continue to advance their careers. But really, it's a lot more than that. I think as I've been involved, I've really learned it really has become a place where people find almost like a family, right? So these are most of the members of these organizations specifically are people that either they're first generation in the US or even first generation college students that maybe do not have a place for them to ask questions or see others, what they need to do. And really Alpha does an amazing job at doing that. They are involved very strongly in college campuses to be able to help people throughout that process and then also involved in professional, just in general, like as you start your career. And then, I mean, a lot of the members of Alpha are executives at some of the largest banks in the world, some of the largest entities. And it's really quite amazing to see.
So it really provides like a safe, supportive community.
It is. They call it the Alpha. So it's really about like being able to have someone that you can reach out to for advice and lots of things. And I don't know if I had shared this with you, but when I always felt like I probably shouldn't be a member of this because of what I was sharing before. Obviously, a lot of the people that are part of it, even though I myself am an immigrant, I felt like I had had so much examples of women and people in my life that had been successful that I didn't necessarily felt like that was the place for me. And then as I started to get more involved, I realized I actually it might not it might not feel like it's a place for me originally, but as I started to be part of it, I realized that I'm not only there for me, but for others, right? So I am able to help others and make sure that they can see what we can all be and the power that we can bring.
I think that's beautiful. And I truly see that you have a lot to offer.
Thank
So you got this recognition of being one of the Latinas to watch. So what did that mean for you personally?
I mean, it's clearly an honor, right? Like I was mentioning, the people that are part of this are these amazing, successful women. And I didn't know I was being nominated, which I will be always very thankful for my team that did it. And it really was great. And it's really like, it has been really a way to get even more involved with Women of Alpha, which is an organization. It's like if you think about it, it's like a subsection of the organization that has helped a lot of the women continue to advance. So now I'm involved in a lot of their programming. I do a lot of presentations to some of the younger, maybe less advanced in their career, women, and it has really been a great place to get to meet more people that are in very similar situations, right? Because as I mentioned, when I first started, I do really feel like it was something I needed even. But then ultimately you are in corporate America and you're a woman and you're Latina. Like it all is there. Not all the people see the rest of you, like the back of you. Like they might see things in you that are different maybe, but like they really just you're still the same. So it really has been quite helpful for me to learn, and then really an honor.
What are some of the topics that you present on? Because you said you give talks.
We did a presentation on leadership and how to continue that leadership kind of energy and how to make sure that you get your right seat at the table. Because I think that a lot of women feel like they can't raise their voice in a room or necessarily talk about it. So then the last one was with a few people from other firms as well as some people from one of the largest banks in the world that was also involved. So we all shared a lot of our experience and we tried to do different levels. So a couple of us were more advanced in our career, but then some were younger and kind of expressing a lot of the things they even were still doubtful about. So the presentations were really helpful for those who like maybe were in either of the roles at the moment.
I think it's very easy for us to feel self-doubt.
Yep.
So if you could give one piece of advice to not just other Latinas, but other women who want to lead, but may still be finding their voice or their place in a corporate setting, what would that be?
I know this is super like cliche, but really, it really is about being yourself. And I think this is very interesting because I probably wasn't as open about being myself when I started my career. And not because of anything. It's just like you were saying, you're insecure. You don't want to be like standing out. Like you want to make sure you're doing the right things. And I was very focused on like being technical, which was all great. But then there was a part of me that was kind of hidden. And like I realized as I started to just truly be myself and let my personality out and do all the things that I do, it was like an exponential amount of growth and exposure. And I mean, I think this is really funny to me. I don't know if you'll find it as funny as it is, but I was kind of given this. Someone asked me a similar question recently, and I was given this advice in front of one of the leaders at our firm. And then he just turned and looked at me and said, "Your reserved and quiet self? You think that was helpful?" I took it as a compliment, and I'm pretty sure it was. But I thought it was great because it really showed me how like he could see it, even though like I mean we don't work in the same place. We do work together often, but like
Yeah.
it I don't know. I thought it was great. It was great to see that.
And I think that's great advice, because sometimes we do shrink back a little or we don't raise our voice because we want to see what other people say or we're not sure what other people are going to think if we stand out.
Mhm.
And that's something I talked about when I did the presentations training this week. I said, because some people are more reserved, some people are less reserved. And it's so important to just let a little bit of your personality shine through and just to be yourself, be your authentic self to whatever degree you feel comfortable. But I know it sounds cliche too, but we're
I
all
know
just
it
these
is, but it is the
unique,
truth.
we're all these unique beings. And if we
Yeah.
don't bring our uniqueness into the room, then the room will suffer
Yeah.
for it, I think.
No, exactly. I agree. I
So
think and that's why I said it does sound cliche, but it is what I think
I
that's
don't
what I
know.
feel like has
Maybe the older I get, the more I believe in some of these cliches that they actually do make sense. Whereas in my youth, I would have thought, oh, come on, and now I'm
I
like, oh,
know. That's why they exist.
wait a minute, that advice was good. I just need to listen to it.
I know.
All right. Well, we've been talking about your background a little bit and the strong women in your family. And I want to turn to culture. And because we've been talking about the Latina Award, and how has your cultural background influenced your perspective as an auditor?
So interestingly, especially growing up in the country that I grew up in, which has its own problems, I think it has made me significantly more skeptical than others, which I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think I was thinking of like what is really different. I think I am more skeptical than a lot of people on it as I'm looking at things and just it naturally just gives me just I feel like I question things a little more. Like it might just be like upbringing, like the surroundings that you are when you're younger, you have to be a lot more skeptical. But I also work a lot with foreign organizations, so just global beings and other organizations that are really cross borders. And I feel like on a less skeptical side, I feel like it really has helped me create a lot of connections with people in all different ways. Like I feel like it really gives me a way to understand others' perspectives. Even when you think about language-wise, I think a lot of the times people get challenges when people have accents or like maybe they don't fully understand. And I feel like for me, it has been a lot easier to build that connection and really understand maybe some of the challenges that these people are having that are not because they're challenged technically. It's just they probably are so much more fluent than even we are in our technical, in their like native language, but then they just happen to have to be working in a different country. So I feel like it has really helped me in that way too. And then I feel like the skepticism has also helped me a little bit.
So would I be correct in saying like the more diverse an audit team, the better?
I mean, absolutely. I think it's funny. I work with teams that are not very diverse in other regional areas. As you mentioned before, I work in New York, which is just naturally diverse because
Yes.
of what it is and the city that it is.
The
And a
center of
lot
the
of the time,
universe.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of the times they like these other teams reach out to me and they're like, "Oh, we need someone from New York, your New York team here because." We are having challenges understanding even a person or like some of the things that they're trying to explain or how to document some things. So uh, I feel like I had seen it before, but I see it more and more as time goes on because obviously teams are getting more diverse everywhere else.
And do you have any tips then for those that are listening about fostering diverse teams?
I think keeping an open mind is always good and remembering that people will be different. And I think it's not only about diversity, but about belonging. You want to make sure that the people feel like they belong, regardless of it doesn't need to be about like being different necessarily, just about feeling like they're part of the team. I think that naturally creates the diversity.
Okay, because I feel like that, mindset is a big one,
Yeah,
right? And just
literally.
being open.
It's just being open and I tried to make my teams feel like they really have a place. Like it doesn't matter who the person is, but that they have a place in our team and that they will be valued and that they'll understand and that they will be that it's something important. I mean, recently with Diwali, like obviously not this is not a national holiday. I think in most places in North America it's not. And I feel like one of my team members we just asked, oh, what are you doing this weekend? And she was explaining all of the Diwali things she was doing. And it dawned on me. I was like, you can take the day off, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a holiday. And she's like, well, but we have a client job that day. I'm like, it's okay. Like, it is a very important holiday to you. And like the fact that we don't celebrate it doesn't make it less important. Like, it's just, I feel like just even bringing things up like that it just came up naturally because we were talking about just other things that were not necessarily work
Yeah.
and just trying to accommodate where possible, obviously, but accommodate some of those things that are it really I think she valued it. I don't know if she took it at the end or not, but it's not usually my role to like ask again and if she wanted to take it. But I don't know if she ultimately took it, but I think she valued the fact that she had the option.
And I think that's what's important is
Hmm.
creating the safe space for people to say, hey, this is important to me. I want to go do that.
Hmm.
So let's talk about your leadership style. How would you describe your leadership style?
Well, I think I try to focus on listening and really as I mentioned, I think it aligns with what the Dwelly comment I was mentioning before a bit. I really want to try to be like have empathy on what they're doing. I know we originally talked about my grandma and my great grandma, and I think
Mhm.
sometimes when I tell their stories, I forget to mention like all of the other things that were part of their personality, which is really one of their main focuses was charitable work, making sure they were giving back to the community. And I think when I think of that, I think of the way that that influenced the way they led. And I feel like it influences the way I want to lead too. It's just like keeping in mind, like, it's not just about the bottom line. It's really about the people that are there and creating the most value and really helping. Like, value is not just about the bottom line, right? So it's about the value created, the people that work with you, the people that are your clients or your auditees or whoever you have, and making sure that you're leading through understanding and listening and making sure that we're not just making unilateral decisions all the time. I think that that is where things start to go sideways often.
And it comes to mind for me, like being present. I think in my youth, I probably wasn't as present in certain conversations as I should have been. And the older I get, the more I realize it actually is super important to just be present in that moment
Mm-hmm.
and focus on that person and what it is that they want to share and what they need to share and maybe what they don't realize they really need to share. But, it's like it's in there and it needs to come out, and it's asking the right questions and listening, as you said, and being empathetic, and those skills are super valuable for a leader to inspire the rest of the team.
Yeah, and I often, when I get these questions and think about it, I often even down myself and think, well, I mean, this is what I'm doing. Like, I hope it really works out. And it's hard sometimes to get feedback. The more, I think the more your career advances, the less feedback you get every single time. And I try to encourage my team to really tell me if there are things that need to be changed. But I think that's a hard thing, right? Like, you don't always get the feedback you need. So I hope it's working out. And I think that I see the results working out often, but yeah, it's I think that's like a fear I'll always have, is like people are not always sharing what they think, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's good, and hopefully there are ways, but because I feel like there's always ways to be better, right? And then you don't always.
I think there are always ways to do better, to be better, and it does help to get that feedback. So it's the word I'm looking for. It's important for all of us to kind of look for mechanisms, whether it's an official, here's a survey, fill it out, or an unofficial, let's go for a coffee and talk about how things are going and just get some feedback that way. I was having a conversation with someone, I think just last week, about feedback, and sometimes feedback isn't fun. I don't know if it's just me. Sometimes, feedback is hard to take, and sometimes it's a wonderful thing. And when we don't like feedback, I always say, just say thank you, number one. And then the other one is to actually sit back and reflect, because there's always a kernel of truth somewhere, that feedback, where you can really find that learning point for yourself.
Yep, it really is. So if anyone listening has a boss they haven't provided feedback to, please make sure you do. I'm sure they would appreciate it.
There you go.
Unless,
There
I
you
mean,
go.
I don't know. Maybe I'm assuming too much. If I'm your boss, I will appreciate it.
I think for those of us who are, open-minded and want to keep improving, I think that's a very positive thing to do. So, is there a piece of leadership advice that was shared with you somewhere along your career that kind of shaped how you think?
I don't know if necessarily something specific, and maybe it's because, sadly, maybe I just don't memorize things specifically that people give me. But I think it really has been a lot about seeing the people that I don't appreciate as much as the people that I appreciate on what they're doing, because I
Mhm.
think that's really where a lot of the learning has happened. Um, no, I think, and I thought about that, and that was part of why I mentioned the feedback, because I really think like it's kind of challenging to get that, right? And everyone has a different style and a different place, and different place where they work in different teams,
Mhm.
and everyone works different. So, but I think overall, it's just a challenging question for me.
And I think too, you can learn from people you don't want to model.
Oh, absolutely. Like so many people that I think I usually that's what I memorize the most. And that's why I don't know. Like, I try to be like, this is not what I want to do.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to be just calling out people in public. That's like a big
Mhm.
thing that some people really like. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I feel like I have like pretty thick skin and it doesn't bother me, but I can tell how it impacts others, like very
Yeah.
negatively. And then I think that's one of the things I've tried not to do. And I think it goes back to the empathy because it's really like about keeping in mind like how people feel. Because we spend so
Yeah.
much time working, like what we do, it's just work, but it's ultimately so many hours of our day. Like if you start just bashing at people during work, it really impacts their overall self-worth.
Yes. And that's no fun.
Mm-mm, for anyone.
So when you think about future leaders in our industry and in internal audit, what skills do you think they need to have to be successful going forward?
Well, I think knowing AI and technology right now, it's going to be a big one. But then because I think it's leadership is going to change quick. I think it's going to change very quick right now. So definitely being technical, but then also continuing to keep people in mind because technology will take a lot of the different tasks that we do today, but there will still be people that are the people that are that we're auditing and the people that are, if you think about it, receiving the results, right? So audit committees are still going to be humans for a good amount of time. Hopefully. Like there's still going to be people in both ends of everything we do. So I think we just got to make sure that we are staying human and focused. So,
And I feel like one of the skills, if it is a skill, is going to be the willingness to make changes
hmm I
and
agree.
to adapt. You know,
Very big one right now.
I had a call with someone today about their audit reporting, and they've had the same report for 10 years. I have multiple of these conversations where it's the same template that it was 10 years ago.
hmm
And I feel like this is a simple thing that we've got to look at these types of things that we're doing and say, let's modernize,
Absolutely. And I mean, not to get into audit reporting, but like that's one of the things that like it really drives me crazy sometimes when I look at like places like they're like, well, we want to make sure everything is in there. But sure, but did you just really want to communicate what the risk is? That's probably what you should be doing. Like everything else should be like somewhere else.
right?
Again, I know we're not getting
Working
into
papers, anyone?
yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to get into audit reporting, but like I feel like that's like a big
Uh,
challenge for some people
I
because
love
they're like,
audit reporting.
like,
We could
oh,
talk
we
about audit
always,
reporting all
I
day.
know, literally, like, they're like, oh, we've always put all the details of the scope in there. I'm like, they're in the work papers. Just like, just do like a
Right?
subject, like little bullet points. No one else cares about that.
Right? I know. And I feel bad sometimes because like appendices will be like half the report. And in my mind, I'm thinking, who reads appendices? I know there's going to be somebody listening here and hopefully they will make a comment, but like who reads appendices?
Yeah.
Right? Like we spend so much time perfecting our reporting. And
Yep.
if there are, five, five issues and a 23-page report, I'm thinking there's too much, too much in there.
Big proponent of short reports here. Big proponent. But
I'm a
I
fan of short
understand
reports.
some people don't appreciate short reports.
It's one of my goals in life is to help audit have shorter audit reports. That is.
If you ever want to talk about short reports, this is your gal. I'm like all
Okay,
for it.
we're going to have that conversation because I love short audit reports. I
Yep.
love, and I think I'm the only person in the world that thinks audit reports can be sexy.
Nope, you may not be the only one.
Okay, that's awesome. I found a kindred spirit in audit reporting. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. Audit reporting, and this is my thing.
Yep, yep. 100-page quarterly audit reports to the board.
One
I've seen
page.
them.
It's all you
I've
need
seen them
per
all.
area.
All right, let's switch over and talk about quality assessments and audit value. So from our previous conversation, I feel like you're passionate about quality assessments. not as a checkbox, but as an opportunity to create real value. And I guess I struggle. So I'm hoping you're going to just set me straight in this part of the conversation, because what I see is a lot of audit shops getting 90 plus scores on their scoring for quality assessments, like 92, 95, 96.7. And in my head, I'm thinking, are we all really that good? Um, like, yeah, and I'm like, I don't know if I should bring this
I
up.
don't think your train of thought is out there. I think you probably have a very similar thought than the IAA had when they were revisiting the global standards. And this is me assuming, again, this is not the IAA's official position, clearly, because I don't work for the IAA, but my thought is I think they were going around there in having the same conversation probably. Like, why is everyone perfect or getting the highest level of scores? And I think the way I see the new grading and the new way that the standards are being like assigned ratings for each compliance level, I think it's really going to that, right? No longer generally conforms is the highest possible, right? So you get fully conforms. So it really gives you that gap between exactly what you're saying. We're really not perfect. You probably were 90% generally conforms, but generally is not fully conforms. So now you have like, now you're fully and then generally, and I think that's really going to give a lot more leeway to people doing reviews to even provide more feedback. So I personally think it's a great opportunity to get the function to the next level. The way that the standards were right now were as well, it just wasn't being reflected on the overall scores because generally conforms doesn't need you to be perfect, right? Or to have the best way possible. It just needs to be good enough. So if you think about having your function be generally conforms and understanding what is the difference, like what's going to take you from there to fully conforms, I think that is where a lot of the like next level, like audit assessments, like reviews of even like some of the standards now officially talk about like you should be doing trend analysis, like root cause analysis across your audit areas, like all of these things that I don't know if everyone was doing. I mean, I know most people were not doing it from what I was reviewing, but technically it wasn't required by the standards. So you can't say they're not doing it, but was it really given the value of like, okay, what is really causing these issues or where should management really focus to improve the controls? So I feel like a lot of that maybe will, I don't know if it will change the way the assessments are done, but it definitely will change the way that maybe management perceives the need to have the highest score level. I don't think they necessarily will feel like they need it anymore, right? Because I think there's a lot of pushing back on like, well, I think I'm close enough. I really should get there as you're doing the reviews. And then give you more wiggle room to truly think of like what would get your function to the next level. And even thinking about the requirement to have strategic plans in audit. Like those are things that we would normally recommend as we think about it. And it was kind of required in the standards, but it wasn't really a must. Now it's a must. So I think where you were in your question is pretty close to where the IAA was as they were thinking of the new standards.
Because I struggle with, when I do my audit report writing training and I teach that we need to have in all of our issues, findings, whatever you want to call them, root cause analysis, and then we need to look across them all and look for underlying root causes and then mention those in the executive summary. And while that may not have been explicitly stated in the standards, it just makes sense. So I struggle with why we weren't doing it, and why we have to have some of these things codified. Wouldn't it be great if we just saw the wisdom and the value in doing some of these things anyway?
Yeah, and maybe we need to do a better job as just audit people describing that, right? Like I work with someone who always says, I hate when we use the regulators as an excuse for finding. Like we really should get there by saying this is why you really need to do it because it'll help you make better business decisions. And I think this is a great example of that. So ultimately, I mean, what we've tried to do like over the last years, I mean, I would say like what is it now? Like 6, 7 years, we've been trying to like obviously have a taxonomy of like categories so you can really compare, right? Because ultimately, just like a statement, it's hard to compare like one audit to another audit and see where the trending is. Um, but yeah, I mean, we should all be thinking about it as like how it's helping you be better versus the compliance. But I guess now we have the compliance requirements. So maybe we'll get there now.
I hope we'll get there. I mean, sometimes I think there's a lot of us out there in the industry that have been kind of preaching some of these things that are good to do, and now some of them are more codified
Mm-hmm.
in the standards, but I would rather people do them because it's the right thing to do as opposed to
Absolutely.
that it's been codified.
I agree. I think that would definitely be the best, but not always the
And
case.
right. And I think if we can get to the point where the people that are doing these quality assessments are really bringing truly valuable things to the attention of the audit shop that they're assessing so that we can move forward. That's what's really important.
Yeah. And I've worked in a few like maturity assessments just to see like how do you get to the next level. And you can tell like some of the larger organizations really want to get there. I think it also becomes a challenge of like audit is a lot of the times a cost center, right? So then like how do you justify needing more or doing more because it's the right thing if you're not able to communicate the value of what you're doing? And I think again that goes back to maybe we should be doing a better job at communicating that.
And depends on, as you're saying, like the maturity of the audit shop or the nature of the business that they're in, and is it regulated or non-regulated, and
Mhm.
how big is the team,
Yep.
and how do you
Even if
manage
you
all of those things?
even if you think of like the new topical requirements, right? Like I've been like looking at them and trying to do comparisons between like what it is today, what's going to be later. Uh, the topical requirements for a lot of financial institutions, for example, like they're pretty much mirroring a lot of the things that we're already required to do through other regulations. But this is now going to become like a very big lift for areas or like institutions that are not regulated as heavily as some of the banks or like just in general financial entities. So I think I find it interesting to see, and I'm very curious to see how it's going to kind of pan out, right? Because now we have like third party, like cybersecurity, all these things that obviously are critical for true business operations. And I think that's why some of these are coming out. But like, how is how is that going to work out for other entities that are non-regulated, right? Because now the only true regulatory oversight they would have for those items would technically be the internal audit standards, but then like how enforceable, like how who's enforcing that? Are they really going to do it? But they're out because they are good business decisions. Like you should really be focusing on your third parties. Seems like a basic
Yes.
risk. Like you should really, really know about it and like things like that.
Okay. Good. Interesting discussion. I'd like to go to another topic that you're quite familiar with, and that's co-sourcing and collaboration. So, um, what makes a co-sourcing partnership successful?
Well, I think the key of a good co-sourcing is clear understanding of the entity's guidelines. You can have someone come in and help you execute an audit or guide you through technical knowledge, technical testing, additional developments, whatever this technical area. Typically this co-sourcing happens when there is a technical area. You might not have the resources, resource limitations, all of those things. So you do have people that are coming to assist you, but ultimately the key is like these people, and by these people, I mean, I do it. So I don't want anyone that's listening to this to think, to think I'm saying anything bad. But like when someone comes to help you execute an audit or be part of your co-sourcing, that they're truly thinking of how does your institution really see audit, using the same language, right? Same risk categories, same finding description, same overall like risk assessing for even at the procedure or control level, like just trying to make sure that it's as embedded within the function as possible to make sure the communication doesn't create then any kind of additional friction with the business, because that is what really could create a negative, very negative impact.
Okay, so if I'm going to hire a co-sourcing partner, what should I kind of demand is a strong word, but in terms of like what would I say? This you must do this, be this, have this, behave this way.
Yeah, demand away. I think one of the key things that we see in successful areas is if you have a large department that they're helping you with a small part, is just saying, this is what we do. But I would do it during the RFP process, like straight up saying, here are the documents that we think are critical for overall methodology execution. Can you work on this? Like, I think make sure that those are aligned, right? So aligned the your internal methodology and what they're going to propose doing for you. Because a lot of the times, if you don't share that during the initial proposal process, then they might not know they have to do it. And then that creates a different kind of friction. So I think just saying, this is what I currently do for my methodology. I think you should follow it because that way I can continue to keep consistency across my process. I think that's if you're doing like a small portion. I think if you're doing a larger portion of co-sourcing, which we also see often, like maybe departments that have one or two people, they really do a very small portion of the plan. And then a lot of the larger portion is, I think if I were you as the person leading it, I would try to determine like how good do I think my processes are because of the size and resource limitations I've had. If I really don't think my current process is the strongest, I would seek to get also understanding of what their methodology is to see if that is better aligned with what I would expect overall compliance and not even just compliance, but like true powerful execution of the audit is. And if it is better, then maybe you can have a slightly different approach because it ultimately can enhance your overall function. And I feel like that's what we try to do too, is like a lot of the times just provide like knowledge that then can be used by the function to be able to continue to grow it in the future. Because I feel like that's ultimately the goal, right? It's making sure that you can have a sustainable process internally.
Yeah. And what I see from some of my clients is reporting issues. So either the co-sourcing partner writes the report and it's completely different style, doesn't give the value maybe that I think should be there compared to, how does that whole reporting thing, how can it work well, I guess?
I think it's part of the methodology, right? So you can just say, hey, here's my report template. It just needs to be there. So, right, first thing, you get template out of the way. All the same things that are included in your regular reports are included. And then if you think about description, a lot of the times, I would say most of the time, all the time, we would like draft a report and then send it to the same person that would QC any other report for any other area. So then it should go through the same process because the report is ultimately yours. Like you own it. So then it doesn't matter who's doing, and I think that's a misconception. I feel like a lot of times happen is like if you're outsourcing your audit, they now, I mean, we should tell our clients, like our client, when I mean our clients, is like the businesses all the time, right? We tell them always you can outsource the function, but like not the risk. Same thing with audit. You can outsource the audit, but ultimately it's the internal audit functions audit. So then you just need that. You need the same QC, the same level of understanding of what the functions are. So it's really very similar to the way that you would think of any other process that you're outsourcing.
Okay. Okay, good. And is there any advice in terms of aligning the co-sourcing auditors with the internal team? Any advice you have for that?
And you're thinking like just overall approach?
Yeah, well, going back to thinking of how we're talking about culture and collaboration and teams, the working relationship.
I think that's more challenging. And I really think a lot of the times it's just part of your initial like proposal and like RFP process. I would just make sure you're taking the time to interview the people that you're going to be working with and that you're comfortable with what that is. I think like meeting the people you're going to meet and trying to make sure that that's the approach you want, right? Because I mean, people say it all the time about just even firms in general, like everyone does good work or most people do good work. It's just really about the people and what the fit is between like cultural fit.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, let's turn to the subject of the power of perspective and resilience, because I feel like that comes through. And I know, I mean, I did it. I don't do it now, but internal audit can be a really intense job with deadlines, reviews, stakeholder expectations, reporting, edits, all these different kinds of things. So what do you do to keep perspective when things get stressful?
I think the key is having something outside of work. And I think it really helps. It helps you stay even, meaning you can get worked up during a specific moment. And I mean, I think my Latin nature really doesn't help me stay even all the time. Like, I don't know if I'm always even keeled, but it is what it is. So I think just making sure that you stay focused on the things that really have to be done then. Like it's easy to get caught up in all the little things. So
Yeah.
try to focus on that and then have something outside of work that's going to help you release and make sure that you're not overstressing unnecessarily. Because I think it's ultimately audit. There are no audit emergencies, maybe one or two, but no one has died from an audit emergency.
I love that. There are no audit emergencies. Somebody write that down.
I really think so. And I always think about it like it's like there's no audit emergency. I mean, like if I was doing like open heart surgery, that would be a completely different story and different statement.
Right.
But I feel like obviously there are things that are critical and there are deadlines and there are things that need to get done, but they're not true emergencies. Like you can figure it out, you can like adjust it, you can get additional help. Like I think there's always a way to get out of it and not get out of it of like not doing it, meaning like of get out of the conundrum.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's an interesting perspective. I might have to do a LinkedIn post on that. There are no emergencies. It's okay if I steal that?
Please go ahead. Absolutely.
I do like that. So do you feel like your outlook on, living a balanced life has changed as you have progressed in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Also, like, I don't think I felt like I needed a balanced life 10 years ago, maybe even like, I just didn't feel like I needed it, right? It was just me. And I like didn't have much more to do. I would work all day. I would travel a ton. So then I would just like, it just didn't make a big difference. Now I have two kids. They're very young. They're 2 and 3. So I think like it really helps you gauge the difference between like what really is an
Right.
emergency or what really it's not.
It reminds me of a story. I don't know if I should say this publicly, but I was dating a guy, it was like 10 years ago, and he said to me, "You don't know how to balance your personal and professional life." And I'm like, "What's your point?"
I,
Like next,
yeah,
right? Because
exactly. Like I don't even know what to say.
when you're in the startup phase of your business, I was like 2 years into having my own business. Like there is
Yeah,
no
of course there
balance.
is no balance. Someone told me something when I first started working at Crowe, and I always found this so valuable. I think maybe I asked about work-life balance, so someone asked about, that was the question came out, and this lady said, there is no balance at the same time. You sometimes are on and sometimes you're off. And I think that is the way you should see it. And I've always kept that in mind. And I think especially when before COVID, things were different and we were all traveling a lot more, it was really on and off. Like when you're out and you're like not in your house, you're like at the client side or whatever, like you were really on the entire
Hmm.
time. You were
Yeah.
on from like the moment you woke up, you had breakfast with your team, you were on until you went to bed and then on again the next day. But then there were moments when you were really off, like, and not off on like off on vacation, but like you, there was no like deadline, there was no specific pressure over like anything that was due that moment. And then you can like take it easier if you think about it. So
Right. Right. I found so last year I took my first real vacation since I started my own business. It was, I think, almost 3 weeks. And then I was just off last week. So that's like really making an effort at this stage of my life to actually take time
hmm
to not work. But I confess that I did work about 2 hours a day in the morning, right?
sometimes it helps you be more relaxed too, which I mean, this, I feel really bad for even saying this, but but it does because because then you know there is nothing out there that is urgent that you have missed.
And
It
everything's
lets you
under
really
control. The team's
relax.
handling the things that need to be handled and you can go off and enjoy the rest of your day. So
Exactly.
So I was traveling with my best friend from high school And so she would be sleeping in the morning and I would be at my laptop by 7 in my
Yeah.
in my room, trying to be quiet, having the headphones on, having conversation. And
No,
but then
that's
you can
awesome.
go and enjoy the rest of the day. And I'd rather do that than worry
Mhm.
about client deadlines and all those different things, right? Then I
Absolutely.
can go and see all the beautiful scenery and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So, do you have a message that you would give women balancing leadership and family responsibilities, demanding roles like yours, the volunteer work like yours that you do? What advice would you give?
I actually think Paul's advice applies. Like, I think when you're on, you're on, and when you're off, you're off. Like, I think, and actually people ask me that often, they're like, how flexible is your work? I'm like, when it's flexible, it's flexible. And when it's not, it's not. There's like, there's no, there's no middle most of the time. But I think that is a balance because then you're able to plan. Like, I feel like for me, it has been really good to plan and also take all the help you can. Like, I mean, I take all the help I can. Like, my mom wants to help, which she's absolutely phenomenal and wonderful. And I am so lucky to have her because she's just great. So like if my mom's helping me, I accept the help. If my husband's helping me, I accept the help. Sometimes I have my friends, like the kids are like somewhere and I have to go somewhere else. And I am not embarrassed to be like, can you guys keep the kids for like the rest of the hour? I'll be back later. And like I don't think it's shameful to need help. I feel like it's like actually great and it also opens the door for other people to feel like they can also ask for help.
And I think you've just given us that advice. It's like to not be afraid to ask for help and to not be afraid to accept help,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Because we can't do it all. It does take a village, I think. Um,
Absolutely.
and um, and being able to accept that and know that you're not a failure because you
Absolutely
need that
not.
help. Uh,
Yep.
which I don't think I knew that lesson when in my youth, but I have become more acquainted with it. Uh,
Yeah. I don't even know how. I think I had my sons really close together, and I feel like with my first one, I wasn't really taking any help, and it was really hard on me, and it wasn't clearly that long. And once I had my second son, I realized like I was so much more calm because I was taking the help. And I was just saying yes to her help that was being offered. And I feel like it was like night and day. It was not even the same thing. And then
yeah,
I realized quickly a lot of people take help, and that's why they're able to do the things they can do. And
yeah,
sometimes you get free help, and sometimes you get paid help. And it is what it is.
and both are okay in my
Exactly. They're both okay.
both are absolutely fine.
Mhm.
All right. So as we come towards the end here, and you have a lot of years of your career left ahead of you. So if we fast forward and you think about your own journey and the direction of internal audit, what excites you most about the future of our profession?
I really think this AI thing is going to be wonderful. I really think it's going to change what we all do. And it really is. I think it's really going to change it. Like, I think we're all going to become a lot more technical than we thought we could be. And I think
Hmm.
we are very adaptable. We know a lot about business in general because we've had all these years of experience of like learning what other people do. And I think it's going to be exciting. Like, I think we're going to become techier than we ever thought we would be. And I think it's going to be great. And I think that is what really excites me the most. And I really think we're going to start seeing how internal audit's going to be seen as providing value through maybe the initial place where a lot of this innovation is happening. Because I know part of why the effort's being focused a lot of the times in internal audit, it's because of what I said earlier. It's ultimately a cost center most of the time. But I
Yeah.
think that's really going to help us get there. In like, I think if we're able to do it, then we'll be able to like pass it along to the rest of the business.
What I want to see is that we use all of that technology. We become good at it to some degree, plus or minus. We at least need to know how to audit it. And I
Oh,
don't
of
just mean
course.
like auditing the LLMs or something, but actually auditing the outputs, which we've seen
Hmm.
recently is a problem if we don't.
Hmm.
Um, um,
Yes. Please do not use LLM without auditing.
but I think we want to make sure that our teams not only know how to use AI, but also know how to question AI and the results and to really find ways to develop the critical thinking skills of our team. I have one client who said, none of our new hires have ever had to write an audit report themselves before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's,
And
I think,
you are in training, right? In a lot of the things you do. So I feel like that is going to be the hardest thing we're going to have ahead. It's how to train our people so they can become knowledgeable, like thankfully a lot of us are now, because we are not going to be here forever. And we can be the human in the loop right now. But how are we going to get them to be able to be knowledgeable in the things they're no longer going to do?
Right. And that's why I say I can show you how to use AI for your audit reports, but I still want your team to know what makes a good audit report.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise they can't question what comes out.
Yeah.
Right. For you, what kind of impact do you hope to make in the next chapter?
I really think it goes back to that question specifically on the learning. I think I just want to make sure I find a way to truly pass along not only my knowledge to the next generation, but also I envision that I will figure out somehow, I don't know how to teach that, right? Like, I feel like that would be like the most valuable thing I can pass along, because I think we're not going to be able to learn the same way we used to learn. And I think if I'm able to figure that out, I think I'll be like so pleased with my legacy, if you think about it.
I look forward to seeing how you achieve that then.
We'll see. I might need to get your help. Clearly, you're the expert in training, so we definitely will need to chat on that.
I know a thing or two.
Exactly.
But I'm always here to help, and you know that. So
thank you. Thank you
with
so
that,
much.
I want to thank you so much for being my guest on the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast. It's been my absolute pleasure to have you, and I look forward to when we can meet again in person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast. We'd love for you to stay part of our growing community, so subscribe wherever you're listening. If you're enjoying our content on platforms like iTunes or Spotify, a quick 5-star rating from you would mean the world to us. It's a small action that supports our mission immensely. Don't forget to explore the show notes for various links and join our vibrant community on all our social media platforms. Your interaction and support play a crucial role in amplifying the voices of inspiring women in audit and spreading their inspiring stories even further. Thank you for being a part of our journey, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast.